It has been a interesting year for our industry and most creative industries, might I add. And we're going to have a little chat about it, kind of unscripted, off the cuff, about what it has been like, the reasons why, my opinions. They might be wrong, they might be right. But yeah, we're going to chat about that. And I would like to thank everyone who has subscribed, commented, reached out to me personally, or bought something on the Bold&Break store. Really appreciate that. It's been really cool to see the channel keep growing and the community keep growing, no matter how small it is. My goal is to keep making as much content as possible. The best Christmas present you can give me is to like and subscribe. If you're feeling super generous with your time, give us a comment. I'd be very interested to see people's personal experiences about what I'm about to talk about. Let's get started. Oh, where to start? Okay, so I guess let's start with the biggest elephant in the room. It's not even an elephant anymore, it's everywhere. AI. Is AI taking your job? I don't think so. Is it taking motion graphics jobs? No, I don't. Is it taking other tasks and menial tasks that might be a job? Yes. I think I love concept art. I look at it all the time. I think concept artists are in a funny position, but does AI do context very well? No. So there is still a need for artists, for sure. And just value the craft. Whether AI replaces you or not, just enjoy your art. Always be making art. Don't let AI change that. But from a work perspective and economic perspective, is it affecting a little bit? Not massively. I think there's a bubble in AI. All you have to do is look at the news and look at the financials of OpenAI. It costs them $700,000 a day to run their generative services. Will the bubble burst? Definitely, because there is so much money being poured into this. It has kind of similarities to the dot-com bubble. So there is a kind of a waiting period until we figure out what AI is. I think it lacks the ability to understand context at the moment. I mean, look at Devin. It's the programming tool that's meant to eradicate the need for programmers. It's $500 a month, and it's just a rewrap version of ChatGPT. There's loads of programmers on YouTube doing really funny videos of trying to use it. Is AI here to stay? Absolutely. Can we use it into our workflow? Absolutely. Should we? We should definitely be looking at ways to speed up our workflow. From a commercial perspective, do we need to do it to make art? No, we can make art however we want. So we need to separate those two things, right? The fear of AI has died down a bit because we've seen its capabilities, and what a surprise. Tech companies have lied about its capabilities again, like they have with everything else. So for sure, it's here to stay, and we need to figure out how to use it. We need to figure out how to sell ourselves better than, AI sells itself, because there are loads of ways to do that. To, basically say, look, we can do this better. It might be more expensive, but you'll get what you want as the end result. Because the clients who don't want to pay a motion designer and just want to get to the solution really quickly without thinking about any of the strategy, any of the goals, or any of the visuals of a video before, they get into that process, and they just want to use AI to generate something, everyone's work will become so generic, they can't differentiate themselves. And those type of clients that just want to get it done like that without any thought behind it are not the type of clients you want to be working with anyway, because they're not strategic and they're not thinking about what is the purpose of this thing that we're making. So let them use AI. They'll realize very quickly it's difficult to point in a direction that you absolutely want for what you want a video to do, or you want a graphic to do, or a still. So, I don't think AI is destroying us yet. maybe in 5 years, but it's playing a role in the sense of it's taking money away from other areas of investment, which we're going to get into now, which is economy. And economy is poor at the moment, and it's a worldwide issue. It's definitely a little bit worse in the UK, I found. You know, the numbers in the UK are particularly bad. I think wages in the UK have been decimated, salaries are decimated, rates are being decimated, and the cost of everything is going up. And what does that mean? That means businesses cannot afford to, you know, pay what they do usually. Margins are being tightened more, departments are being squeezed. It's a difficult time in the UK for sure. And that's not to say it's not difficult elsewhere. You know, there's housing crisis and public healthcare crises everywhere, but there is a general issue with the UK because of wages. The UK is one of the largest exporters of services in the world. When inflation goes up and the cost of living goes up, people within those service companies want their wages to go up. So it's kind of a cycle, which is becoming a problem. And day rates are being squeezed. What do you do about that? I don't have a right answer for that. The way I deal with that is I try to be competitive. I have a threshold that I won't go below. So I'm not racing to the bottom. That's not the point of this, because, you know, that's a zero-sum game for you. You need to cover your bills, but, you know, be competitive, be flexible with your rate. That would be my approach. I think this idea of standing strong on your rate, I think that doesn't work. There's always going to be someone that will do it for slightly less. And granted, the client doesn't know maybe the value of what they're paying for, because they may not do a lot of the stuff that we do or see a lot of the stuff that we see. So be willing to be a bit more flexible, because they might be only doing 2 or 3 videos a year. Just be aware of that, is my advice. I don't think we should be racing to the bottom with our rates, but we should definitely be as competitive as possible, because it's important to cover your bills. Another point I'd like to talk about is our industry is still quite immature. And I don't mean the individuals in the industry, I just mean the industry as a whole. Motion graphics, if we take motion design, motion graphics as an industry, it's still relatively new. It's not a legacy industry, right? So there's a lot of learning to do for motion designers, and there's a lot of maturing in our industry of how we approach and how we sell and how we get work. And I think this is a time where we can actually become more mature as a motion designer. There are so many damaging myths to designers and motion designers out there. You know, make great work and the client will come. That's just not true. It's not true anymore. It may have been true in the past because this was far more niche and there were far less designers. You need to sell yourself. You need to sell the purpose of what you're making to the client. You need to sell end goals to the client, and you need to build business relationships. I can see that there are average designers, motion designers doing really well versus like some incredible motion designers who aren't doing as well, because they were in this situation where the work was always so good that the clients just came, and that's just not the case anymore. It's okay to go for low-hanging fruit. You know, your corporate videos, if you're paying your bills, who cares? It doesn't make you less than to go for work that is just, you know, bread and butter. It's okay. This kind of idea of always doing incredible work all the time, it's a great standard to have. That amazing work, those amazing briefs, they're limited. You've got to find your bread and butter. You've got to build relationships with your clients or with potential clients and just put yourself out there. I've got responses from just putting myself out there, you know, emailing people. It's important, and it's a way to stay busy during a time where you mightn't have all the paid work you need to stay busy. So that would be my advice there for sure. I think don't always rely on incredible work to get you the client, because not all clients need that. They just don't need it. Some clients just need an educational video to educate their consumers or, you know, their users, and they just need to be this clear kind of corporate style video. You can still make it look beautiful in certain ways and certain shots, but just be open to being more flexible with the type of work you do and how you get work, because that is changing and that will mature the industry as a whole. I think this is a time where those myths that we have are more damaging than ever. I also think demand for the work we do kind of peaked before COVID and around COVID, and there was so much content out there. And I think that's kind of pulled back a bit. And there was a saturation of motion designers because the demand was so high. The demand has pulled back now because of economy. And there's a surplus of supply, basically. And will that last forever? I don't think so. I don't see that happening. You know, economy will play a part in that for sure. As interest rates come down, businesses might have more budget, hopefully. I don't have a crystal ball. I definitely have seen kind of, you know, if you look at social media now, the polished ads that you'd see on social media, you know, 5 years ago, they're not as consistent. Buying media on those spaces have become cheaper and cheaper. So it's just about volume more than quality. But there are other areas emerging, you know, the Dome in Las Vegas, spatial design with Apple, the headsets, you know, there's lots of emerging technologies that we will eventually get into and the motion designers will be pulled into, but that demand is just rebalancing itself at the moment. So I have a life update, which is a bit personal, and I might do a whole video on this, but I've decided to leave the UK for good. I have many reasons, and it probably needs a separate video, but the economy is particularly bad here. Infrastructure is really poor. It's gone really poor. And I'm talking basics like water. You know, sewage is being let into our local, you know, estuaries, into the beach that we're nearby. Like the trains are getting worse and worse. Getting up and down to London is so difficult and expensive. The roads, when we take out our car, like there's potholes everywhere. And I know this seems like trivial stuff, but it builds and it builds and it builds. And the infrastructure is poor in the UK. It's really, really poor. And that's not to say where I'm going back to, which is my home country, Ireland, is much better. Not saying it's better. There's lots of actual infrastructure problems in Ireland, but there's a bit more economic prosperity in Ireland for sure. GDP numbers are much stronger in Ireland than they are in the UK. I have paid so much money in rent and I'm mentally and financially drained from doing it. And I have the fortune of staying with a family member when I go back to Ireland with my family. I'm very, very lucky, very, very blessed. That's not an option for everyone. And we want to basically save to buy a house. I have a family. I think being financially responsible is important. I think rent is only going to go up and I don't want to be in a rent trap. And having an asset and getting your costs down is really important, especially during times like this. I think being financially responsible, especially when you have a family, is important. I was never really interested in owning a home until I, had a family. If you don't have a family and you eventually do, you will start to understand those reasons. And yeah, I'm just kind of fed up. My mental health, my bank account, my ability to spend has been just eroded away in the last decade of being in the UK. I see it all around. It's a world problem for sure. I see it even in Ireland and America, but there is definitely a little bit more wiggle room if I go back and I have, a certain time period where I can try and save and then potentially buy a home. And where I'm going in Ireland, it's not Dublin, so the chance of being able to buy a home is much better. People might respond in oh, Ireland's terrible. A lot of the problems in Ireland come from Dublin, and I have no intention of going to Dublin because it's Dublin. No offense to anyone from Dublin. Dublin's lovely, but yeah, Ireland does have its issues for sure, but there just seems to be a bit more prosperity there, and the wealth inequality in the UK is eye-watering. And I mean eye-watering to the point of it feels bleak at times. And, if I was able to own a home in the UK, I'd definitely consider staying here. But I do not see that happening now. And I need to pack up and leave. And it does sadden me because there's so much I do love about the UK. I absolutely love the city of London. I've made a base here. I've made friends. And moving is difficult at the best of times. But we're going to take the gamble and we're going to do it. It would be interesting to see what anyone else thinks. I think a lot of the subjects I've talked about could be separate videos, and I might do that. But it's interesting to just kind of have a overview and review of the year and what we've seen in the industry. And I'd be very interested to get everyone else's thoughts. How do you feel about, you know, the economy, AI, the UK, if you're from the UK or if you've lived here? Yeah, let me know in the comments below. And I wish everyone a very happy Christmas. And I hope, you know, everyone's safe. Thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.